Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers. I'm looking at this morning at two books which have come in, and it's two volumes of the same subject area from Elgar Publishing. They're an independent family firm. The book is entitled, you can see the first volume here, it's entitled The WTO and Trade in Services, Volume 1 and then Volume 2. This is part of the critical perspectives on the global trading system and the WTO, the World Trade Organization, and the series editors are Kim Anderson, George Gollan, Professor of Economics at the University of Adelaide, Australia, and Bernard Hoekman. And Bernard Hoekman actually has been the main editor of this work. He's director of the International Trade Department of the World Bank in the United States. Let me start off by showing you the books. That's the first book, that's the front, the side and the back, a little bit of blurb about them. What you've got, there's no index by the way in this book at all, but what you've got is the contents page at the front. I think is very helpful. Part 1 deals with determinants and patterns of trade in services. Part 2, services, policies, trade and welfare. And then what you've got are a series of acknowledgements of all of the people who contributed to this extremely detailed book, which covers something approaching 1,500 pages. And what Mr. Hoekman says right at the beginning in the introduction, which is worth looking at, is one of the stylized facts of economic development is that the share of services in GDP and employment rises as per capita incomes increase. In the lowest income countries, services generate some 35 to 40% of GDP, and this rises to over 70% of national income and employment in OECD countries. So you can see that it's an important contribution to where we're going. The book is very detailed. You've got a lot of very substantial footnotes where the referencing takes place. There are lots of tables throughout. I'm just taking examples here of what is actually available. You've also got, again, very much part of the Edward Elgar structure, you've got a lot of referencing, which I again find very helpful depending on what you're going to use this book for. And then you've got lots of graphs and that sort of information, which is more relevant, of course, to the economic aspects of WTO work. As I say, I'm very pleased. That's Volume 1. I'm very pleased with this book. Volume 2 follows in very much the same way. What in fact Mr. Hoekman says at the back, he says the past few decades have witnessed a growth in the importance of services in the economy, yet until the 1980s scholarly literature on the expanding role of trade in services in the world economy remained scarce. So this has really bridged the gap, if I can put it this way. This is Volume 2. And again, you can see with Volume 2, it's got a series of parts. Part 1 is the GATS, Genesis and State of Play, and then Part 2, Services in Regional Integration Agreements. Okay, and what you've also got is a detail concerning all the acknowledgements again of the people who contributed. Then you go straight in to the actual work, and you've got footnotes again at the bottom. This one again has a lot of tables, but there is in fact no index as such. That would have been, I think, a very substantial undertaking in its own right. So when you're looking for a particular piece of information, it's slightly more difficult to actually identify some aspects. However, what you have got is, I think, very detailed lists of what's actually in the various parts. Anyway, I'd like to thank Edward Elgar and Bernard Hoekman very much, and all the contributors, for what is an excellent contribution to something that we really didn't have much information about before. It's great for research, and it's a great contribution to the ongoing debate about where we're going with world trade. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.